How do you know if your child is on track with their reading, and what should you do if you're not sure? I wanted to make a quick video today to help you to feel more clear and more confident about where your child is with their reading as we come towards the end of the school year. We're heading into that second half of the summer term where things are so busy. There's school reports going out, there's parents' evenings happening, and the summer holidays are right around the corner. And this is often the time where parents start to think about, is my child where they should be with their reading? What exactly should they be able to do by now? And is it just a confidence issue, or are they still struggling? That thing that they were finding difficult might still be present. So let's break it down simply. I want to share with you a rough guide on what to expect for reading by the time your child reaches a certain point. Now, the first thing I want to say is that every child is different. Your child might not be meeting these expectations or be reading at the level that's expected at this stage. But what's really important is knowing that that's the case. If your child is a little bit behind, the key is to put some support in place to help them so that that gap doesn't get any bigger as they continue to move up through the school. Reading is based on those really early skills, so if those gaps are there from the start, it's important to correct that to support them so that they can keep making progress. So let's start off looking at reception. When children are in reception, they are at their very early stages of phonics. They're beginning to learn the single letter sounds and some digraphs, and they're going to use those sounds that they learn to read simple words, words like cat, dog, sun, and ship. They'll begin to read short phonics-based books with support. So that's the expectation for children as they are leaving reception. When children enter into year 1, they should be becoming more confident with all of the phases of phonics. So that's knowing all the single letter sounds, but also digraphs, trigraphs, split digraphs, and they'll be using all of the sounds that they know to read shorter sentences fluently. They'll be able to read and decode real words and alien words. And they would have also taken part in the Year 1 phonics screening check that happens in June. So you should hear from your child's teacher or from school if they passed the Year 1 phonics screen or not. And it's really important just to check if they did, amazing, and if they didn't, what sounds was it that they were stuck with so that you can put any support in place. Your child's school should also put support in place when they're in year 2 so that they can retake the year 1 phonics screening check when they are in year 2 in June. So typically children then, when they get into year 2, they move beyond phonics to begin to develop fluency, expression and comprehension. So your child should be able to read by recognizing words. They can still use their phonics skills to break down and read words that they're not familiar with, but overall their reading should be more fluent. And because of that, they can start to add expression and begin to understand what they're reading. Children in year 2 can also read a range of sentence types and answer simple questions about what they've read. So now we're going to move into Key Stage 2. So when your child goes into year 3, they are entering the Key Stage 2 part of their education. And we're going to look at Key Stage 2 in years 3 and 4 and year 5 and 6 because the skills that they learn are pretty similar. So in year 3 and 4, reading becomes much more fluent and independent. Your child will be expected to understand a wider range of vocabulary, to make predictions, and begin to think about character motivation and meaning. So they're well beyond phonics now. They're beginning to read a wider range of texts and understand them on a deeper level. When your child then goes into year 5 and 6, they're developing a much higher level of reading comprehension. So by this stage, children should be able to read longer texts with confidence. explain themes within a book, infer meaning, and answer questions using evidence from the text. They're also expected to begin to compare texts, explain author choices, and analyse vocabulary. And these are all skills that lead into the Year 6 SATs. Now, what's important to remember is even though the SATs happen when your child is in Year 6, they are SATs that assess Key Stage 2. So that's skills all the way from Year 3 to Year 6. So if your child is in Year 3 or Year 4 and they're showing signs of some gaps in their understanding, they're not quite where they should be. It's really important to put some support in place for them now, because as they keep on progressing, those gaps can become much wider if support isn't put in place. But as I said at the beginning, every child is different. Your child might excel in Year 1 and all of a sudden they're finding Year 2 quite challenging, and that could be the case in any year group. So here are some signs to look out for that might mean that your child needs a little bit of extra support. So your child might be still sounding out most words slowly, so still heavily relying on phonics and struggling to become more fluent with their reading. Your child might be guessing words instead of decoding them, or perhaps they're avoiding reading altogether. Often when children find reading difficult, they'll get to a point where they don't want to do it anymore. And that's because it's really tough. So by helping children to be able to read, they're more likely to enjoy it because they can do it. If we find things really difficult, it's the last thing we want to do. So it's important that rather than allowing children to become frustrated or tired quickly and give up on reading, that we support them to be able to read so that they can also have a love of reading. All of these signs are common and fixable, especially if they have the right support in place from early on. Now, what's important to remember is that progress looks very different. So children move up through the school levels and they can be doing okay, which is brilliant. But progress isn't always about moving up a book band or moving into the next phonics group. There's small things that you can notice with your child that are absolutely worth celebrating because it's signs that your child is making progress. And that might be things like your child feeling less anxious when they're reading aloud. Maybe at home or perhaps someone at school has mentioned that they're more prepared to read in front of their class. Maybe your child can explain what's happening in the story, so they're showing that they remember what's going on and they're able to retell it in their own words. Maybe they have a favourite book that they've read over and over, but now they're beginning to read it more fluently and add expression as they're reading. Or perhaps they're beginning to correct themselves when something doesn't sound right. So rather than relying on an adult or someone around them to correct them, they are beginning to notice those things themselves. These are all signs of growing independence, so it's really, really worth celebrating those. So just as a final thought, as we're now in the time of parents' evening and reports, if you hear something or read something in their report and you're not sure what it means, please do reach out. Sometimes teachers use phrases like developing decoding skills or need support with inference, and you might be left wondering, what does that actually mean? How can I help my child? So if this is the case, I'm always happy to help to interpret that for you and suggest ways that you can help your child at home. So we can work together, and I'm very happy to support you to help your child and make sure that they enter their next year group feeling really confident. So I hope it was helpful. Thank you for watching, and any questions or comments, feel free to comment them below or send me a message. Bye.